Hi everyone, so today I wanted to share with you some of my favorite tips for staying consistent with exercise. In fact, if you can follow these tips, I'm quite sure that you are going to dramatically increase the odds that you will stay consistent with exercise. And it's also going to help you if you're just trying to get started with exercise too. So I'm Justin Kampf. I have a PhD in exercise and health sciences, and I work as the fitness director for Weight Watchers Clinic. So let's go through the things that need to be in place for you to be successful and consistent with your exercise routine. Now, first, let's start out with a very, very important concept. And this concept is called the intention behavior gap. So what's called reflective motivation culminates into a single construct called intention. It's pretty reflective of that reflective motivation. It's when we intend to exercise. Now, you've probably experienced this before. Just because you intend to exercise does not mean that you do exercise. Okay, now, the other thing is that intention is really important. Intention is a precondition for a behavior to happen. It would be unfathomable for me to say right now, I'm not going to the gym, and then 30 minutes later, find myself in the gym. So intention is a precondition for action, but it does not guarantee action. This is where a lot of people struggle. How do I take my good intentions and then move it over to behavior? Okay, there's strategies for that. And there's 3 strategies that I'm going to give you. And these fall under the umbrella of self-regulation strategies. So self-regulation just is going to help us translate those good intentions over to behavior. Now, the first one that I want you to focus on is called action planning, okay? Action planning is when you say the day, the time, and the place that you're going to exercise, okay? It's something that I want you to put in your calendar. You need to know when it's gonna happen. Without action planning, it's really impossible to know why we didn't exercise. Did we forget about it? Did we miss the opportunity? No, we always want to make sure that we have a prompt in place, so action planning. The next one is called coping planning, and I'm gonna give you some strategies for that in the second part of this video. Coping planning is, what do I do if something comes up that's gonna interfere with me acting on that action plan? Okay, maybe that's an external event, kids need something, but maybe it's an internal event. I don't feel like doing it. Coping planning, that's the second one. The third one that I want you to focus on is actually my favorite, and it's called self-monitoring. And it's the reason why I have been on a 17-day streak of doing my Portuguese lessons. Self-monitoring, what's self-monitoring? It's just paying attention to our behavior. If you have an Apple Watch and you keep track of your steps, that's self-monitoring. So write down what you want to accomplish each week, and then at the end of the week, evaluate, did you meet those standards that you set? So paying attention to our behavior, that's self-monitoring, a very important behavior change technique. So action planning, put it in your calendar, know when it's going to happen. Coping planning, what do we do if a barrier comes up? Self-monitoring, pay attention to our behavior. Now, those self-regulation strategies are going to dramatically increase the odds that we'll translate those good intentions over to behavior. Now, the good news is if we can do this enough, we'll start to form habits, we'll start to form routines, we'll start to see results. And I can talk about this in another video, but once you start to see results, that starts to get really motivating, and you start to ask yourself, what could I possibly do next? Like what's something that I can push myself on, get stronger? Or maybe is there a hike that I've always wanted to do, or a family vacation I've always wanted to do but been a little hesitant to do, but now I'm more fit. But let's address the issue that it can be hard to act on our good intentions. Those self-regulation strategies are going to be really, really helpful. But here's what I want you to do, and this is what I teach everybody. When the prompt comes, remember that's action planning. Let's say that you wanted to do strength training Wednesday during your lunch break. So you have it in your calendar, Wednesday at 12, that prompt comes around, and maybe you had 30 minutes blocked out. Okay, how can I make sure that that prompt leads to action? Okay, prompts are successful when the demand of the task is lower than our motivation, or stated otherwise, our motivation needs to be higher than our perception of the difficulty of the task, okay? So with that in mind, there's a couple things that you can do. Can I make myself more motivated? Sure, that's one route that we can go. But I generally actually encourage people to make the task easier. Turn down the task demand dial until it matches your motivation. The interesting thing about motivation is it might be stable in some cases, and then in other cases there might be things that influence our motivation that make it higher, make it lower. Maybe I had a fatiguing day, conflicting demands. Maybe I don't perceive it as being an affectively pleasant thing. There could be any number of things that could go on that could make our motivation lower. Let's not even worry about that. Instead of worrying about how to raise our motivation, and I'm going to leave you with a tip too, let's think about how can we reduce the task demand. What does that look like practically? You plan on exercising for 30 minutes? Okay, let's do it for 5. 5 minutes has a much lower task demand than 30, so match the task demand to your present state of motivation. Now, a lot of times people will say, oh, if I could just get more motivated. The fun thing is that instead of focusing on getting more motivated to act, I want you to act so that you can get more motivated. So those are some tips that I want you to use. So remember, your good intentions need to be supplemented with those self-regulation strategies, action planning, coping planning, self-monitoring. And when your prompt comes along, remember, don't worry about making yourself more motivated to act on it. Make the task easier. 30 minutes, drop it down to 5 minutes. That's going to increase the odds that you'll act again in the future. If we can do it when it's hard, we can do it when it's easy. So go ahead, put those tips into action, and let me know if you have any other topics you'd like me to cover.